Where exactly does Apple's adventure end and mine begin? Here it is, boys. Apple Watch Ultra. So just wanted to share some quick thoughts with my backpacking brothers, some early use case thoughts for the Apple Watch Ultra. I went out and grabbed this first thing when they hit the stores last week, and it was very interesting for me because I have never owned an Apple Watch. I've owned just about every other Apple product there is, but I just never saw the point in an Apple Watch while I was carrying an iPhone. Everything I could do on the iPhone and more. So it seemed an extra redundancy to me. However, this one changes the game a little bit, and I have for a while wanted to pick up a sports watch that could be used for my specific use case. I'll tell you right off the bat, this does not meet my use case fully, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but it is a step in the right direction. And actually, my ideal sports watch is something between this and a Garmin watch, probably the Garmin Fenix 7. And Also, another spoiler I'll tell you very quickly is battery life is very, very important to me. So this one obviously is not going to get me there, but I will just share a few things, positive, some pros, and maybe some cons with my experience with this watch and my specific use case. Now, my specific use case, as you all know, is as a backpacking tool and as a device that I can do a lot of things with in the backcountry. I obviously want to be able to put trail maps on here and have navigation guide me down a trail map. So, one thing right out of the gate that this does not have is, like the Garmin's have, are very well developed maps with topographical lines drawn, elevation and all of those types of things. Now, what I did do was I quickly downloaded Gaia maps, Gaia GPS maps, and right out of the gate, put those on the phone and used them on a paddleboard trip last week. And not knowing anything about the Apple Watch Ultra or Apple Watches in general, or the Gaia GPS software that goes on the Apple Watch or on the iPhone, both of them work surprisingly well for me. So that was quite positive, and you'll see as I show you some of these videos that I took on this paddleboard trip that the Gaia GPS actually, is able to set up waypoints and lead off from shore all the way to a campsite in a place that I'd never been before, on lakes and little backcountry creeks, getting all the way there. And it was a lot of fun. It was actually quite an adventure. So as far as my experience goes with the Gaia maps, the Gaia GPS maps, and the Apple Watch Ultra, it was actually really pleasant. The maps worked surprisingly well for me. They were simple. I was able to set up waypoints and follow a route all the way from shoreline around two lakes, through a creek or a connecting tributary between the two lakes, and then arrive at shore to my campsite. So really impressive, not having any experience with Apple Watch or any experience with Gaia GPS maps. Both of those worked. Now, I would like to see native, very well developed Garmin-esque like maps on the Apple Watch that you can zoom around on, you can hone in, leave waypoints, route to an end destination, backtrack, all of those things. So that's something that Apple, I think, really needs to get on the ball and develop for this specific application for the Ultra. The Ultra is also very impressive. Instantly, when I put this on my wrist, it felt very comfortable. In fact, the band, I got the Alpine band, the Starlight Alpine band that came with this watch, this model, and the band felt very good, so very comfortable. There's not a single seam on the band. I think it was all stitched in one form. So it's very comfortable. It has a little bit of stretch with the band. Fits on very nicely, snug, seems very durable, looks good. So many things were very positive about that. So instantly when you put this watch on, it feels very nice. It doesn't feel too heavy. It doesn't feel, bouncy, lopsided, or anything like that, or like it's going to shake around a lot. I've already run with this. I've done some basic workouts on it, and it stayed on snug, fit close and tight, and performed very well that way. The screen is really, I think, one of the biggest. The display is one of the biggest bonuses. You can navigate the display exceptionally well and move from screen to screen. It's very fast. And so the display, being the size that it is very, very good for the backcountry. Reading text messages, constructing a text message, constructing an email, all the things that you'd want to do on a display were easily done. The dial here on the side. Just the motion, the smoothness of it, very, very good. The launch feature or the customizable button, also exceptionally good. I really enjoyed that. A couple of other things on the phone, or excuse me, on the Apple Watch that are interesting. They've got some additional speakers. They boosted this speaker so that they could do the Siren. They added the Siren, which is a backcountry alarm that can ring. I think it's upper 80s decibel range, and it sends out a very non-standard sound in different formats, including SOS, so that you can actually alert somebody else. Now, when I actually used this, it felt a little more gimmicky to me because the distance wasn't that great from what someone could hear you by using the Siren. This gives you the idea of the distance on this. You can see Nick right there. He can hear me right there. So I tried to consider what would be the use cases for that. And I think there's probably a couple of situations that it might be valuable. If unfortunately you had a very bad accident and you sent, alert out, or you alerted someone using the emergency features on this watch, and you were in, a situation where you were about to go unconscious, you could turn on that Siren and that would continue to ring, so search and rescue could get to you even if you were unconscious at the time. That seems like the use case for it, other than maybe just sitting in camp. If you're in camp and I'm out backpacking with Maverick, my 8-year-old, and he's running around camp, I could tell him if you hear the Siren go off, that means come back to camp. And if he's just within the short distance that he could hear it, that could probably be valuable. Other than that, I don't know that Siren has the reach and the noise level that you would want on it to really truly be able to be heard and someone know that they need to come rescue you. So that's that piece. I do need a watch in the backcountry that will eliminate many things. I'd like to be able to eliminate the compass. I think the compass is on here is good. You don't know if you can necessarily use it for full-on orientation of a map, but I think the compass was really good. Like I said, I would like this to be something that would have the same level of Garmin maps, backcountry maps, and mapping that you could use for orientation. I want it to be able to read the ambient temperature and tell me what the temperature is. I don't think it does that. It can read your body temperature, and then it reads the temperature around just so that it gets the body temperature right, but it will not tell me what the immediate temperature is in the area that I'm at, and I would really like that. I'd like to be able to know that a storm is coming and so have an alert with that, because it's reading not only the temperature but the barometric pressure, changes of the barometric pressure. So that's something that I'd like to see added to this. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there is, I think it requires some sensors, so I don't think that's possible, but there's a number of apps that I don't know could be available. Of course, you can get weather apps on here and see what the storms are coming, but in your immediate vicinity, you would not be able to tell a storm is coming without those additional sensors. Now, it does tell the temperature of water with the dive feature, so it'll tell depth and the temperature of water, but right out of the package when I wore this on this trip, that was a little glitchy. I would put my wrist under the water. On one occasion, I put it under the water and it actually read, the distance. I put it under about a foot and it was accurately reading a foot under the water. I tried to do that later on to capture it on video and it did not work. So I'm not exactly sure if that was user error, if I hadn't set something up right, but for it to work on one occasion and not on the other, it felt a little glitchy to me. And quite frankly, I mean, that's my experience with all Apple products. They're not perfect. There are glitches, and to me, it's something that I would kind of hold up to Apple and say, Apple, you got to make better products. Now, some people go crazy because they love these products, and I think they're pretty good too, but I don't think that they're great. In no case are they perfect. I might as well go ahead and jump into the battery in that case. It's funny because everybody online is touting how amazing this battery is, and that's kind of what you get with Apple, because the batteries are just not that great. The battery and energy consumption is not that great. When you have a little boost in battery life, everyone seems to kind of go crazy. But this is going to, in fact, when I measured this and tested the battery using the GPS and kind of going in and out of cell signals, sending some texts and things like that, but also really managing it very carefully with the GPS. I had it in airplane mode quite a bit to try to preserve battery life. And I got close to what their estimated, with normal use battery life was. I think I came out of a little over 24 hours of a trip, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe close to 29 hours, and had maybe 19% battery life left. And that was really trying to manage the battery life very carefully with it being in airplane mode quite a bit. So, as far as a day trip, or a day and a half trip, this will probably work and do, but it's not going to allow me to do a 3, 4, or even a week-long trip without charging. And I don't think that's great at all. I think we've got a lot of work to do, and Apple, in my mind, is somebody that should really be pushing the boundaries on better energy solutions than what they have. I would even kind of call them out a little bit and think that they ought to put that on the list and be a front runner of something instead of a follower in those cases. So I think people just come to know that they're going to have to charge and charge frequently, and that to me is kind of a showstopper when you're in the backcountry. So there's work to be done on that one for sure. I do like the health data and all of the health aspects of this, being able to read your heart. You can actually do heart rhythm tests. There's a host of different things, oxygen, blood oxygen levels, and many, many more that I think are fantastic things. I'm just getting to know, what's in the Apple ecosystem on the watches with health-related items, and I think those are very, very valuable, very, very valuable for the backcountry, including all of the things that are, crash detection or monitoring, some level of biometrics that could alert somebody in the case of emergency. Those are excellent for backcountry, and I hope that continues to develop. So what I think this does really well right out of the box, very comfortable, massively comfortable. It's actually beautiful. The screen is beautiful. The design is beautiful. I mean, I put this leather band, this walnut leather band on. I took off the Starlight Alpine band, and I mean, it's a great looking watch. I added a different face here. You have a bunch of different faces that you can add to the watch, and I picked this one out. The one that the one that they package with it, that's a new one just specifically for the Ultra, is actually very beautiful, but the problem is things on that screen are so small, it's kind of hard to use, be usable. So put this additional watch face on here that I really, really love. So that's good stuff. The titanium is impressive. I mean, the look of it, of course, it reminds me of kind of the Japanese, the Snow Peak products, titanium products, pots and things like that. The color of it is very similar. I love titanium. I love the weight, the lighter weight and the stronger. The one downside is titanium will, it's softer, and so you will, I think over time you'll see scratches on this. I don't think you'll see scratches on the screen. Sapphire crystal glass is very scratch resistant. I've had another Citizen watch for years and beat the heck out of the screen, and it just looks still like brand new. So I think the screen is going to be fantastic, but it looks beautiful, very functional, very easy to use, neat navigation. Not only with your bare hands but also with gloves. Many people have also mentioned the accidental pressing of the buttons. If you're, over here and pressing this button sometimes on both sides of the watch, that's a little bit of an issue. I think you get used to it and you figure out where to place your hands a little bit over time. Taking the watch bands on and off, I was pushing all the buttons. That's a little bit challenging to do, but you work through that. So it feels fantastic right out of the gate. I think the design and display is very, very impressive. It feels rugged. I think it's going to take a beating in the backcountry. The flat screen and the real estate of the flat screen is significant. One thing I would really like to be able to do, go into the backcountry and leave my phone, take just this. That to me would really be an interesting value proposition out of a tool like this. If you could just take this. Now, I don't think Apple wants you to do that. Apple wants you to be carrying all of their products. But if you could do this as a communicator, as a mapping device, as a sensor, all the sensors you need, just this one device, that would be phenomenal. And if I could get rid of my Garmin, if I could get rid of my inReach, if I could get rid of my watch, if I could get rid of my phone, I still probably have to carry, some sort of camera device, but if I could consolidate all into this, that starts to be a really neat value proposition for me as a backpacker and someone, going to the outdoors, this being a very neat tool for that. So that's positive. I really like the compass. I liked dropping the waypoints and being able to backtrack. That was a neat feature, very, very positive. But it's not going to replace a Garmin product yet. I do like that it's entered Garmin space. Anytime these big companies start to compete head to head, I think the customer only wins. I think we're going to see neater and better products. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be the last Apple Ultra that I'm going to have to buy, because I think they're going to add some additional sensors to compete with Garmin. Garmin's going to get better. And so this is not the last product that I'll have to buy, unfortunately, but it'll be fun to enjoy it and test it for what it is now. I do wish that, some of the glitchy things were a little bit better. Of course, that could be some user error, so I'll admit to that up front. It definitely needs an Apple orienteering solution, some better map features. The battery has got to get better. I'd love someday for there to be a device like this that does everything I wanted to do for backpacking and requires no charging. Now, some people are going to say you're crazy with that. It's always going to require some charging. But hey, many, many years ago, nobody thought I'd be holding something like this in my hand. So I think there's energy solutions to be found and things that will still come and still be developed and still be created and still be found that we don't even know about yet today. The emergency siren could be improved and had to figure out more use cases for that. I love the health items. I wish the health items were able to be seen more on the screen and scroll through the menus on this watch instead of having to go to the iPhone for the expanded views. I think you've got the real estate here, and you could have more health data on here to scroll through without having to go to the iPhone. Siri was also something that everyone's, it's a love-hate relationship. It can be very frustrating to use Siri. Obviously, without a cellular connection in the backcountry, a lot of times I was trying to use Siri, hands-free things, and was not able to do that. So also a continued downside with Siri that way. So I just put on the Apple Watch Ultra, and it feels really magnificent. And it's something that you instantly like when you put on. And so now I'm actually going to go test it out. I have a paddleboard camping trip overnight. I'm going to put this thing to the test and see what it does for us. All right, I've done the first thing that I really want to do on the watch for this paddle trip, and I'm creating Gaia GPS a route map to test out the navigation capabilities, at least on a third-party app on the Apple Watch Ultra. So here's how it goes. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to Gaia GPS and navigate. Click on navigate, and I've got my day 1 route recorded. Click on that. And then I can come down and start the route. See lots of details about it and start my route. Trying to get my Gaia going. Says I'm off route to start with. Not sure if this is gonna work or not. Never used it before. It's showing now, it dinged me and showing me that I have an upcoming waypoint. So yeah, I started off route, of course. All right, if I'm calculating correctly, headed right towards the first waypoint, and I'm, looks like off the route by 4 feet and 0.18 miles to the first waypoint. If I'm reading this correctly, which should be right through there. And Nick is about 100 feet off the path. Now showing, I'm getting close to en route. It's showing that I have a waypoint coming up. All right, so you can see we passed our waypoint, heading into this little run here. I'm gonna go up and around that bend. Somehow my precision has gotten off on the map here. I'm headed away from where I set the last waypoint, which was our campground. Retracing my steps. I wonder if there's a cut right there somewhere we're not seeing. I am looking forward to, finding out more about this, using it more, really putting it to the test. I love that I can go underwater and deep underwater without any issues. And overall, a very impressive watch, and look forward to putting it through the paces and testing it some more.